Very good morning to all of you. So, yesterday we have discussed about types of communication. The types of communication we have discussed about verbal and non-verbal communication, right? And today, going ahead, we will be discussing barriers of effective communication. What are the barriers in the pathways of effective communication? So, do you know the meaning of barriers? What are barriers? Barriers are nothing but obstacles. Barriers are hindrances. Barriers are hurdles. In Hindi, it is rukawat. Clear? Now, whenever we want to communicate to others, sometimes it happens that either we fail to communicate, or else the recipient of the message or the content fail to comprehend the message. Right? So, what is the reason for that? Did we ever analyze the fact? What is the reason for that? So the reason is barrier. So there are two types of barriers in effective communication. These have been categorized into two segregations. First is your internal barriers and second is your external barriers. Now, under internal barriers, the first is lack of listening skills. Now there will be undergoing listening skills sessions later on. Listening skills, what are listening skills? Skills to listen properly, right? Sometimes what happens, our teacher or our parents or anybody want to communicate us something which we fail to comprehend due to listening skills. We don't listen it carefully. हम सुनना नहीं चाहते, हम समझ नहीं पाते हैं. Why? Because we lack listening skills. We don't have that skills to listen properly. Because either our mind is somewhere else or we are somewhere else. We fail to listen. So it is the internal barrier. It is something which is within us, right? ये हमारे अंदर है. It is within us that we lack listening skills. Moving on to the second internal barrier, it is lack of interest. We don't bother. We don't have that interest to listen. Suppose a teacher is communicating something to you, you don't have that interest to listen to him or her. So, despite numerous attempts, you will definitely fail to comprehend what the teacher is saying. Because you don't have an interest to listen. Interest factor is very important. So you might have noticed the backbenchers, they are always busy gossiping whenever teacher takes class. Yes, Harsh is smiling. Because he knows he is the same. So what happens whenever we don't have an interest in that topic, what our teachers, trying to make us understand, it is lack of interest. Next is gender difference. That is very common. Gender bias, gender difference. This is due to lack of education. So the male community is hesitant to talk to female community. Maybe males who will not talk to females and something like that. So this is basically due to lack of education. Next internal barrier is your status difference. We think that we live in a state of preconceived notion. We have that preconceived notion that our status is not as per the status of the other person whom we are communicating. So we will not talk to that person because there is a lot of status gap between me and the person whom I am communicating. So this is again a lack of knowledge, status difference. Now coming on to the external barrier, It is lack of network. So whenever we are undergoing telephonic conversation, lack of network, right? And also when we are having the face-to-face interaction, then also we can have lack of network. Which network? Mind signals network. My signals, my mind network is not matching with your mind network. So it is a kind of external barrier. Next is lack of amenities. I don't have that facility. Suppose I have to address the assembly and my voice is not that audible to all of you and I don't have a mic. I don't have a mic. So lack of amenities, I don't have the required facilities, right? So how will I will be able to kind of deliver my lecture? So and lack of amenities is again a like external barrier, isn't it? Next is language difference. That is very common. Very common language difference. We know Hindi and the person whom we are communicating to knows only English. So how will we be able to communicate? So it will create a hindrance, right? It will create a hurdle for us to communicate. So these barriers lead to what? Lead to communication gap. Whenever we have barriers in communication, it leads to communication gap